I have more than 1,000 games in my Steam library. That is ridiculous. I have no idea how that happened. I have noticed that a lot of these games that I own can be bought for super dirt cheap. And I thought it would be fun to do a series where I take a look at all of these games that can be picked up for less than $5. Not only does it help me start chipping away at my daunting backlog, but it also gives me an opportunity to let you guys know if these games are worth your dollars. Today, on a very special episode of Steam Dollar Menu, we take a look at 5 games that all come in at $1. And Aggie learns a very important lesson about friendship. Let's do it. This is Steam Dollar Menu. Our first game is Ding Dong XL that was published by Vision Studios in 2018, and it is also available for the Nintendo Switch, which is actually where I originally played it. This game is another one from the guy that brought us all of the games in the Atari Recharge series, of which I am a fan. This is also the same person behind Bit Blaster XL, which we took a look at in a past installment. Like Bit Blaster XL, here we have another simple arcade-style game where you control a puck with the aim to avoid the obstacles in your way in order to keep bouncing back and forth between the 2 edges of the screen. The name of the game actually comes from the ding-dong sound that your puck makes when it hits a wall, and this is not from the naughty section of Steam. You really don't want to even look there anyway. It gets pretty scary. You are aided with various temporary power-ups that spawn randomly during play. As you progress, more enemies spawn and ding-donging gets gradually more difficult. This is a very simple game where it is all about timing your move and using the power-ups effectively. I think the simplicity of the game is why I like it so much. When I first tried this one, I thought I would get bored with it very quickly, but it is incredibly addicting. Definitely a game that keeps me in a loop of telling myself just one more round. I love the graphics. I find the simple neon shapes to be very aesthetically appealing, and the music, as per usual with Vision Studios, is pretty fire as well. There's even a couple of extra game modes thrown in, one where you control 2 pucks at once and an endless mode. I don't enjoy these other modes nearly as much as the main game, but they are a nice addition. After your runs, you can spend your accumulated ding-dongs on unlocking new pucks for more ding-donging. I'm really having a good time with all the ding-dongs. Can you tell? Unlocking all the pucks and seeing everything this game has to offer won't take very long, but for $1, I think this is an amazing deal. Trying to beat my high score kept me playing for much longer than I had expected, and I randomly get the itch to pick this up at random times just to see if I can do a little bit better. This game is perfect for when you have a few minutes to play a game or if you're looking for something of a palate cleanser between more involved games. Ding Dong XL is a great little arcade game that I highly recommend for $1. Ding Dong. Ding Ding Dong. Done. Up next, we have Space Codex, which was published by TAC in 2016. This is another simple arcade-style game, but this one is a little more evocative of the classics. In Space Codex, you take control of one of 3 ships and are tasked with taking out waves of enemies. There is a barrier around you limiting the field of play, and more obstacles spawn that you have to maneuver around as you progress through the game. You are also equipped with a boost, and you can hold down the special attack button to fire a more powerful shot. There are a few power-ups that can be picked up to temporarily boost your firepower and defense. I like the graphics here. Nothing terribly flashy, but I think they work for the game very nicely. I freaking love the music in this game. Some great chiptune-inspired pieces here. There is not a lot to this one. There are some achievements in the game which I think adds to the experience, but all of them can be conquered within an hour of gameplay if you're good enough. But I think that's alright. Sometimes you need a game that can be conquered quickly between more involved experiences. This is another high score chasing game that I think does what it sets out to do very effectively. My biggest complaint about the game would be the lack of power-up variety, but for $1, I think this is a pretty solid experience. I quite enjoyed my time with this one, and if this looks like something you'd be into from seeing the gameplay footage, I would recommend giving this one a try. Just don't expect a terribly deep experience. Okay, so this next game, it's a doozy. Solamist was published by Michael Rivshire in 2020. This game is pretty much an interactive tool video. To prove my point, I'm going to put a little piece of tool music against the gameplay of this game, and tell me that if you didn't know any better, you would just think that this was the actual video. Roll it. It is a claymation point-and-click horror game. The plasticine art style is immediately striking, especially paired with the hellish sound design that was reminiscent of the film Eraserhead. And now that I think of it, the tone overall is very reminiscent of Eraserhead. There is no dialogue or story that is directly spelled out to the player. It's pretty much an interactive nightmare. There are certain moments that have multiple choices, and there are 2 endings to see. My first playthrough only took about 15 minutes, but I played through the game 2 more times. One time to get the other ending, and the other time to get the last achievement that I hadn't unlocked yet. This left me with about a total of 37 minutes of playtime. It is a very, very short experience. The game definitely lends itself to various interpretations, but I see it as a reflection on the effects of isolation and declining mental health. It is a very visceral experience that perfectly marries a compelling art style with phenomenal sound design. That sounds kind of terrifying. It's awesome. You should probably be able to tell if this is something you'd be interested in by the game footage. But me, I absolutely loved this one. But bear in mind that I enjoy being made to feel uncomfortable and am a connoisseur of the odd and unsettling. It's a trait of mine that I value very highly. In my opinion, this game is definitely worth $1. If you like more arty, cerebral game experiences, this might be a game to check out. Abduction Bit was published by Seep in 2016. This one is straight up trying to emulate the feel of an 80s arcade game, complete with scanline options. Influences listed in the store description include Bubble Bobble, Ice Climber, and Mario Brothers. In Abduction Bit, you take control of an alien who must abduct all of the Earthlings on each screen in order to go to the next screen. There are 2 buttons, one to jump and one to shoot, and there are hazards and obstacles in your way. When I first booted this one up, I was not very impressed. The controls possibly emulate the game's influences a bit too well. Your character just doesn't feel very great to control. It does become less of a problem the more you play and get used to it, but the controls are frustrating to me in similar ways as Ice Climber. Just very clunky. I don't know what it is, but I just hate the way that Ice Climber feels. I want to love that game, but there's just something about the way that it controls. Getting on and off the UFO beam is way too finicky and frustrating, and the jumping just feels a little off to me. But like I said, you do adjust to it, and it does become pretty fun. I think the graphics and sound do a pretty good job of emulating the 80s arcade feel. There's even a 16-bit level pack in the game that gives you different levels with a 16-bit graphical coat of paint on top, with some pretty sweet music too. There are 3 main sets of levels, easy, normal, and hard, and this game will probably keep you busy for a while if you wind up enjoying the gameplay. While this is probably my least favorite game of the bunch, it's still a pretty good time, if sometimes frustrating. Definitely worth the $1 that it costs, and you often find this one on sale for much less. game for today is UberMosh. UberMosh was published by Walter Machado in 2015 and is the first installment in the UberMosh franchise, of which there are many. UberMosh is another arcade-style game where you play as a badass armed with a sword and a variety of guns in a cyberpunk mosh pit filled with foes and bullets. You have 90 seconds to try and get as many points as possible. True to its store description page, UberMosh gives you a quick shot of adrenaline. It is intense. The graphics complement the gameplay perfectly, and the music is some of the best music I've ever heard in a game. Like, bar none. It is a twin-stick shooter that can be controlled with a mouse and keyboard or a controller. You have the ability to cut the enemy's bullets and send them flying across the screen to take them out, which is super cool and feels really good. There is a small variety of weapons that can be picked up from the piles of goo from slain baddies. If I had any complaint about UberMosh, it would be a lack of weapon variety. There are different mods you can apply to switch up the gameplay though, which adds some spice to the experience. I love this game. Its style won me over immediately. It is a very difficult game. Surviving the entire 90 seconds will be a challenge. At least it was for me, but I consistently start a new run as soon as I die. This is an incredibly addicting game. Worth $1 for sure, and it's often on sale for 50 cents, which is, I'm pretty sure, what I paid for it. If you're looking for a quick, concise shot of adrenaline, UberMosh is the game for you. The colony provides us everything except for violence. That we still find on the deserts of Altkar. And there we go! 5 games on Steam that cost $1. I think every one of these games is worth that dollar, and most of them, if not all of them, go on sale for like 50 cents all the time. I did not intend to have so many arcade-style games in the mix, but when I do these videos, I pick the games at random, and because I'm pretty partial to that style of game, that arcadey, old, retro feel kind of game, I tend to stockpile and buy a lot of those games. So I just have a lot of them in my library that I need to go through. Let me know what you think of the games. Have you played any of them? Are there any games on Steam for less than $5 that you'd like me to take a look at? And with that, I want to thank everybody for watching. You guys are amazing. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. And I will see you next time. Bye. It is now time to shout out our awesome channel members. Thank you, Sad Vlad, Retro Cart Collector. You guys are awesome. Anyone interested in getting shout outs and videos and other cool perks, make sure you check the join button down below.